It's a beautiful day in the Alpha Quadrant. It's a beautiful day in the Alpha Quadrant. Could you be mine? Could you be mine? I always wanted to know a Taran just like you. I always wanted to ride a soliton wave with the crew, so could you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my Trekkie? I'm just joking, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Trek Canon. It's been a while. I like to do videos when there's something to actually talk about. And again, excuse the production. My son is supposed to be helping me out with this, but he doesn't. He needs motivation. I'm going to have to give him some motivation. I'm going to have to show him some discovery or something. Actually, that'll demotivate him. Anyway, so we are talking about Picard, Star Trek Picard, episode 1 and 2. So, first off, let me say, we all know how I feel about Captain Picard, Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Outstanding orator, but leaving Kirk on a planet under some rocks and didn't tell anybody, that was just unacceptable. And then to get Data killed, very unacceptable. But if you need a speech, Captain Picard is your man. So let's talk about 20 years later. 20 years after Nemesis. So we find Captain Picard on his vineyard, and he's doing vineyard things. He has a couple of Romulans. I'm pretty interested in their backstory. We learn that they have ties to the Romulan military, which would make sense. I loved the series so far. I loved episode 1, I loved episode 2. There were so many things that I was hoping that they would mention, that they would bring up, that they did, that linked Star Trek Picard to established canon, and not that J.J. Abrams' bad robot abomination. Let's take a moment of silence. Anyway, so, for instance, they brought up the Iromonic, well, they didn't bring up the Iromonic syndrome by name, but they said that it could be a rare case, a rare syndrome, and I'm happy that they did that, because that was a question that was going on, because during this time period, and a little bit after, he should be suffering from the Iromonic syndrome. Now, will they go into, speaking of, the Iromonic syndrome, and it brings Dr. Beverly Crusher to mind, I wonder if they're going to incorporate his marriage to her, or if that was something that didn't happen in this particular timeline, because in All Good Things, parts 1 and 2, they had been married, and then they had got a divorce, and she had kept the name Picard. So I'm wondering if they're going to link it in any way to All Good Things, but so far they haven't, besides the fact that Picard has a syndrome that's going to prevent him from, being all there while he's on his missions. I like that they decided to give the ultimatum of some of the member worlds leaving the Federation if they decided to help the Romulans, due to the established canon that Romulans have pretty much always been a thorn in the Federation side, and not just member worlds, but there hasn't really been anything positive that the Romulans contributed to the Alpha Quadrant, besides when you get into Deep Space Nine. But we're not talking about Deep Space Nine right now. But I'm glad that they covered that, because that's pretty realistic. Why would you devote our resources, the potential lives of Federation citizens and Starfleet officers, to save the enemy? It's not like it's an unknown species or something like that, but it's the enemy. You know what I mean? That's kind of akin to saying, okay, would we save the Borg? Now, along those lines, that is in Captain Picard's established canon, Picard would try to save the Romulans, and I give you two reasons for such. Um, Picard exemplifies the values of a Starfleet captain. Okay, he truly upholds those values. Now, let's not even consider, when he mind melded with Spock, in unification, that he probably picked up, well, not probably, he picked up some of Spock's personality, which was that Vulcans are kin to the Romulans, which makes Romulans kin to the Federation. That all they needed to do was just bring them back into the fold, give them a reason to, and they can be outstanding Federation allies. Also, there's been other times where Picard has decided to save the lives of the Starfleet of the Federation enemy. For instance, when he in with Hugh, he had the ability to send Hugh back to the Borg with a program that would basically shut down the collective, and he decided not to do that. Okay, much to the dismay of Guinan and I forget what her name is. Admiral Nechev. Oh, I love Admiral Nechev. She's an awesome. I'm gonna have to do a video one day on Admiral Nechev. She's just awesome. But anyway, um, back to Picard. So basically, what we know so far is that Dash is supposed to be a synthetic the daughter of Data, and I've seen videos where people are questioning how that's possible. So let's go into canon and see if we can link it, because that's what we do. So Data, I don't believe Data would have ever given up on the prospect of making a positronic brain. Okay, he came so close in creating a positronic brain that even surpassed his. Lau developed emotions. Now, Lau eventually shut down by the end of that episode. Her neural net crashed, but Data downloaded her experiences, or basically her, into his positronic brain. So you can say that Lau exists as part of Data. Okay. Now, Data also downloaded his experiences and his essence into B4, which means that B4 not only has the essence and memories of Data, but B4 also has the essence and memories of Lau. So, Commander Maddox, as we've seen in the in the first episode of Star Trek Picard, Maddox has B4. Now, maybe Data's personality didn't entirely take, but maybe Lau's personality was able to be salvaged. Okay, and maybe because there are two personalities inside B4, that's probably why they had to make them Gemini, make them two, make them a couple, make them twins. That's my assumption. That's my hypothesis. Let's not, it's just my hypothesis. But that's probably why they had to make them two. As far as Data's mother goes, I think that she would be irrelevant, because I don't think Maddox knows about, well, let's say for instance, Maddox did know about Data's mother. Okay. How would he do any type of experimentation on her without her, or maybe during this time, because she does age, she could have died naturally, and he could have, but that would have nothing to do with Data and her daughter or her granddaughter. So I like that they keep Picard's personality intact as well. Okay, he's not over jubilant. He's still button up straight to the collar. All right, so we find out that the Sense decided to attack Mars. Now, in episode 2, they did a really cool scene where the synth walks into the break room and starts to manipulate the controls, and basically nobody in the room can do anything about it. Now, if you think about it, even if these are lesser versions of Commander Data, every time Commander Data wanted to take control of the Enterprise, there was absolutely nothing anybody can do about it. Not one thing. And I used to joke with a friend of mine that says, I've never seen Data get shot. Data has been shot at. Data has been in a room with a laser that was tracking him and anticipating his movements. And Data didn't even have a burn on his uniform. So, Tasha Yar's sister tried to shoot Data. Didn't work. All right, so Data is also extremely fast and strong, as we all know. So, trying to run up and physically restrain the Data is not going to work. Even somebody who is not as advanced as Data. Okay, so the rest of those people standing back, not doing anything, was totally understandable, totally realistic. So I wonder though, if lore will be included in this, because we know that lore was disassembled. Okay, that was the last we heard. He was disassembled. He wasn't destroyed. He wasn't vaporized or disintegrated. He was just disassembled. So I wonder if that will ever make a interest into this. But going back to Star Trek Picard, I know I could ramble sometimes because I love Star Trek. It's awesome. So going back to Picard, so he needs to basically come up with a crew. He goes to Starfleet for help, and they really don't help him. Which is kind of well, it's not really interesting because I could really understand it. You turned your back on Starfleet, and then just the day before, a couple of days before, you're giving an interview where you're talking bad about the organization that I hold dear, and now you're coming to me for help. Okay, so I think that she should have listened to his reason a little bit more, but her reaction was totally understandable. Now, I find it interesting that cadet or that officer at the desk at Starfleet Command did not know who Picard was when you have the Enterprise floating directly above you. You don't know who Jean-Luc Picard is? Get out of here, man. Come on with that. So, anyway, so we learned that Maddox was doing experimentation on creating another synthetic life, even after the ban on synths, which is totally understandable because of the trouble that Maddox went through just so he can get data to, just so he could investigate data, so he could try to figure out how data works. He was really passionate about that. And as we know about Starfleet officers who are passionate about their work, it being banned really doesn't stop them. Dr. Nguyen Singh, for instance. So, if they will have Maddox in there, that'll be interesting as far as him personally. But, so we find out that Maddox is continuing the work, okay? And that they shut down a particular division of Starfleet. In that sense, were outlaw. So, found out also that Data's daughter is a synth that does not know she's a synth. She can just activate. Now, it's interesting because Data has subroutines that prevent him, ethical subroutines that prevent him from just harming people. Now, I wonder if she's some kind of battle synth. I wonder if she's or is there some kind of protection protocol that Maddox put into her because he knows about this particular Romulan subset. By the way, this Romulan subset, I forget their name. The Tox Utat. No, I forget their name, but they're supposed to be the ancient spy group behind the Tal Shiar. First, I'm going to have to say the Romulans have way too many subsets. We have the normal Romulans. We have the Romulans that look like Vulcans. We have the Romulans, the Reavers, the Remans, that was on the dark side of Romulus Moon somewhere. We have the Tal Shiar. Now we have, no, Tal Shiar is in a different species of Romulan, but it's a different faction of Romulan, I should say. We have the Tal Shiar, and now we have the people behind the Tal Shiar. Now, I hope there's more to their story than just hating sense, or if there's a good reason. But I really hope there's more to their story, because I'm gonna have to say, it would be kind of interesting to see uh, the true people behind the Tal Shiar, and if they will link that in any way to Deep Space Nine or Anabran Tain. So, and for those of you who don't know who Anabran Tain is, come on, really? And you call yourself Trekkies? He's from Deep Space Nine, Elam Garrick's father. But I hope I did not just spoil some things for some of you guys. So, as everybody know, I do speak spoiler because I ramble a bit. So let me close this by saying, I really, really, really do like that I can turn on a new episode of Star Trek and look forward to actually seeing what's going to happen next. Something that keeps true to the canon of Star Trek in the prime timeline, uh, with familiar people and in unfamiliar circumstances, in new times of their lives and new phases. Uh, in the future, because a lot of Star Trek's been doing prequels, and you know, if you're going to do a prequel that's somebody's interested in, like Annex R. So anyway, but um, so far I'm very interested it has my interest. I love the production of it. I'm glad to call myself a Trekkie. Well, I've never been unglad to call myself a Trekkie, even with Discovery and Bad Robot now. It was starting to get a little hard, but um, thank you guys for watching, and if you guys would like me to link anything or talk about anything as far as canon goes with Star Trek Picard and how it fits into canon with the rest of the Star Trek universe, please let me know. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't. And I promise the production to get a lot better. Have a good one.